Welcome to this video about playing with the Heron Rhythmic Analysis Framework. In this video, we will look at a very simple phenomenon to see how we can leverage data science tools to examine the data produced by the system. We are going to look at the quantitative shape of hexameter. This is defined by the combination of dactylic and spondaic feet. In a hexameter, the alternation of these two patterns in the first 5 feet define 32 possible shapes. For each shape in each work, we collect its relative frequency. This example refers to an epic corpus of about 90,000 verses, ranging from Homer to the 6th century AD. We then cluster works according to their fingerprint, as defined by the frequencies of all the shapes in each. This fingerprint is important also because there is a clear trend in its change during time, from Archaic Age to late antiquity. Here, for instance, you can see the details of the distributions in 2 extreme points of our timeline, the Iliad on the left and the Dionysiaca on the right. As you can see, some patterns get more and more frequent as we proceed towards a period where syllabic count is going to be one of the key features of a new kind of versification, born at the dawn of Middle Age from the ashes of the classical model. Here's another view which focuses on the evolution of frequency of the most relevant shapes. Time goes from left to right, while frequency is on the vertical axis. We are clearly oriented towards a much more monotonous pattern, which would have never been favored in previous times. That's because in this long time span language has dramatically changed, and versification reflects it, while still being drawn by the strong force of genre and tradition. So, even a simple feature like this can be interesting, especially in the light of its evolution. It would be useful to see how works can be grouped into clusters according to this feature, and examine the works of each group. We shall see which are similar and which are different, and how this relates to time, too. Can we see how much this evolution matches our expectations, as defined by the history of Greek literature? So, we're going to adopt a clustering technique. Clustering allows us to have a quick glance at how similar our works are, in relation with this selected feature. To look at clusters, we will draw a scatter plot, where each work is a point on a Cartesian plane. This implies reducing the 32 dimensions of each work to just 2, using a procedure named Principal Component Analysis. We will also add a color to each point, according to its period. Here we have 4 periods: Archaic, Hellenistic, Imperial, and Late Antique. This will help us understand whether this feature is aligned with our expectations from literary history. In fact, we expect points with the same colors to be in the same area. The nearer they are, the more similar the works. Here is the result. As you can see, colors do not appear to be randomly distributed. Rather, they tend to group together. This corresponds to our expectations. Except for some outliers, which usually have their own motivations, most of the points with the same color appear in the same area. Yet, here we have reduced 32 dimensions into just 2. We can have a better look at the spatial relations if we increase them to 3. Adding a third dimension, we can still draw a scatter plot. This adds more details to our visualization, but also requires to be viewed from different angles. We would like to move around in this 3D space, and zoom in and out, so we can best appreciate the position of each point. So, adding interactivity will allow us to navigate around space and look at the evolution of this fingerprint in time. The following video shows Write This, a short trip in this space. You will see the original cluster in Archaic Age and its expansion through space. The farthest the points, the latest the works, expanding from the original Archaic center, like after a Big Bang. Here's our 3D space. We can move around and also see the metadata of each point. The red area corresponds to the Archaic Age, starting with Homer. If we zoom in, we can see that other points start from this central group. As they go farther, we advance in time. For instance, blue is Hellenistic Age. Traveling farther, we find works from Imperial Age, in violet. Finally, at the far end of this universe we find Late Antiquity, with Dionysiaca as the farthest point. We are free to move in this space, and appreciate similarities and differences from many point of views. Let's move to the origin of this universe, the red area. This is the Archaic period, where we find Homer and Hesiod works. Late Antiquity, green, is at the opposite corner of this space. So, as we move away from the origin, our travel in space also becomes a travel in time. We are moving forward 1.5 millennium, up to nanos. And then back in time, across the Roman Empire and Hellenistic reigns, up to the Archaic era. We can also move our entire universe, to look at it from different angles. Here we can fully appreciate how the traditional periods of Greek literature are reflected in the different colors of the constellations in this universe. Of course, this is just a glance at a single feature. With millions of data collected by this system, we will be able to look at any features, as well as to their complex interplay, and extend to other corpora, languages, and rhythms. So, this is just the start of our trek. You can find more about Huron at this page. Thank you for watching.